Tonight I need to tell you the one thing I never say out loud in my line of work. I read my own toe tag. It was clipped to the collar of a lab coat, folded with military neatness, inside a freezer drawer that did not exist on any floor plan. The tag was clean, bright white, the kind we use when we want mistakes to be impossible. The name printed in block letters was mine. The status line beneath it said, "Deceased." And the smell coming off that coat was formalin, cold metal, and rain. Like somebody bottled the worst night of my life and saved it for later. My name is Dr. Marcus Hale. I am a forensic pathologist in Philadelphia. I do autopsies, postmortems, whatever word makes people flinch less. I work nights more often than I admit, because death is quieter after visiting hours. And because the living have a habit of asking for comfort I cannot ethically provide. In the basement of Schuylkill Memorial, the air always tastes faintly of disinfectant and old concrete. The hall lights hum. The cooler banks vibrate like sleeping machines. People think a morgue is a horror movie set with shadows and screaming violins. In real life, it is worse in a different way. It is routine, it is paperwork. It is the soft slap of nitrile gloves snapping over your wrists, and the way your brain learns to keep eating lunch after seeing things no one should see. I have rules: respectful postmortems, clean table, clean cuts, no shortcuts, no jokes over a body. I've seen what happens when professionals start treating death like a task instead of a person. Sloppy labels, missed injuries, families who never get answers. So I do it the hard way even when I am tired. That is why she noticed me. She came in the night before Thanksgiving, November 24th, brought down by EMS just after midnight, tagged as Jane Doe because nobody could tell the intake clerk who she was. Female, late 20s, found near the Schuylkill River Trail, not far from Kelly Drive, where the streetlights flicker and joggers pretend the river cannot swallow sound. The preliminary note said, possible hypothermia, possible overdose, no obvious trauma. When Rita, my overnight autopsy tech, unzipped the bag, the first thing I saw was her nails, trimmed clean. A pale half-moon of polish on each thumbnail, like she had cared about small details until the very end. It made my throat tighten in a way that had nothing to do with anatomy. I said, "Whoever did her intake, thank you." Rita did not look up from the computer. "You talking to me, Doc?" I said, "Not you." Whoever remembered she was still a person. Rita snorted. In a morgue, sarcasm is survival. The dead get better manicures than I do. I began the postmortem the way I always do. The way they teach you in training. The way you do it when you want the truth, and not a story that feels neat. External exam first, photographs from every angle with a scale marker. Height, weight, body temperature, rigor, livor. I documented the lividity along her back and legs, fixed and purple, consistent with being on her back after death. I checked behind the ears, inside the mouth, under the fingernails. I bagged her hands for trace evidence before washing anything away, because sometimes the smallest fiber tells the biggest truth. I swabbed for DNA under the nails, took a hair sample, noted a tiny abrasion on her right forearm that looked like gravel rash. Then I did what I always do before I cut. I paused. People assume a pathologist feels nothing. That is not true. Most of us feel plenty. We just do not let it steer the blade. I said softly, "I am going to take care of you. I promise." Rita glanced up, and for a second her joke face dropped. She nodded once and went back to her instruments. I made the Y-incision clean and centered from each shoulder down to the sternum and then straight to the pubic bone. Skin and subcutaneous tissue reflected back in smooth flaps. There is a way to do it that looks brutal and a way to do it that looks like surgery. I always choose surgery. I opened the chest, cut the ribs with shears, lifted the sternum like a lid. The smell of the inside of a human being is something you never forget. Warm iron, salt, the faint sourness of stomach content. Under the morgue's cold lights, it becomes clinical, but it never becomes nothing. I examined the organs in situ before removing them. Heart position, fluid in the pleural spaces, any hemorrhage. I opened the pericardial sac. Her heart looked bruised, darker along the anterior wall. I noted it, because bruising where it does not belong is a language. I removed the organs in the standard block, weighed them on the scale, recorded every number: heart weight, liver weight, lungs, spleen, kidneys. If you think that sounds cold, understand this: numbers are often the last honest witness. I drew blood from the femoral vein, not the heart, because central blood can be contaminated after death. I took vitreous from the eyes for electrolytes, because vitreous is a quiet little truth teller when everything else has been altered. I collected bile, urine, gastric contents. I placed tissue sections into formalin jars for histology. Each jar got its own label, date, case number, initials. Chain of custody is a religion down here. The brain came last. Scalp incision ear to ear. Reflect the scalp forward and back. Remove the calvarium with the oscillating saw. Lift the brain gently. Cut the cranial nerves and vessels. Most people do not realize how heavy a brain feels in your hands. It is not just an organ, it is somebody's entire world. When I finished, I reconstructed her. I cleaned her skin, closed the incisions with neat sutures, combed her hair, wiped her nails again like it mattered, because it did. I wrapped her in a fresh sheet and zipped the bag with care. Before we placed her into the cooler, I said something I did not plan to say. Thank you for letting me do this right. Rita shot me a look. Doc, you are getting sentimental. I tried to smile. Better than getting sloppy. We slid her into a drawer. The metal rails caught for a second, then eased. The latch clicked. The drawer became just another number in a row of numbers. I went upstairs, filed my preliminary findings, and told myself that would be the end of it. It was not. The next night, a coffee sat on my desk when I arrived. Not a random cup from the cafeteria. My order, black with 1 sugar, lid turned so the sip hole faced my keyboard the way I always do. No name on it, no receipt, no explanation. I walked it down to the security desk. Jalen, our overnight guard, leaned back in his chair and watched me approach like I was trouble. What is it, Doc? I held up the coffee. Who brought this down? Jalen shrugged. Nobody came through. I figured you left it. I said, I did not. Jalen gave me the look people give doctors when they are deciding if you are joking or unstable. You sure you're not sleepwalking? I laughed because the alternative was not funny, I am sure. Rita overheard and called from behind her mask, Congrats, you got yourself a ghost. We all laughed. Adults in scrubs making basement jokes. We have to, or the job eats you. But the favors kept coming. A door hinge outside the autopsy suite that had squealed for months suddenly went silent, oiled and smooth, without maintenance ever showing up. My missing pen, the one I liked because it was heavy and wrote clean, reappeared on the corner of my desk, aligned perfectly with the paper stack. A loose screw on my desk chair stopped wobbling. Even the faucet that dripped in the scrub sink stopped mid-week, like somebody had turned off time. Tiny things, quiet things, thank you gestures, the kind that would be sweet if they did not make my neck prickle. On the 4th night, Jalen called me over with a voice I had never heard from him before. Doc, you need to see this. He pulled up the security camera feed for the morgue corridor, timestamp 2:41 a.m. The hallway was empty, bright, still. Then a gurney rolled into frame from the left, slow and steady, sheet tucked tight on top like a hospital bed made by someone who cared. No hands on the rails, no footsteps behind it. It drifted, corrected itself at the corner, and rolled straight toward the older freezer bank at the end. The freezer door opened, the gurney slid inside. Jalen froze the footage and stared at me like he expected my degree to explain physics. He said, "That door is keyed." I stared at the paused image. Wheels do not do that. Rita came in behind us and looked at the screen. She whispered, "Nope, absolutely not." I did the thing professionals do when confronted with the impossible. I tried to make it boring. Old cameras glitch, pressure changes, drafts, a prank. Then the tox results came back for Jane Doe and made boring impossible. Negative, no opioids, no benzos, no alcohol, no stimulants, nothing that explained why a young woman would end up dead by the river. I pulled her x-rays and reviewed them with fresh eyes. Under the soft tissue shadows, I saw what I had missed in the first pass. Faint fractures along the ribs, the kind you can overlook if you are expecting overdose. Subtle bruising around the heart. A small tear in the liver that bleeds slow and quiet. Injuries that whisper car crash, not cold exposure. I began chasing records, EMS run sheets, police call logs, traffic reports. In a city like Philadelphia, trauma is constant, but patterns still exist. And there it was, buried like a lie in a list of truth. Multi-vehicle collision, I-76 near City Avenue, heavy rain, one driver pronounced dead at the scene, second vehicle abandoned near an embankment, female occupant unaccounted for. My stomach went tight because my brain remembered rain and headlights the way a body remembers a scar. That night I stayed late, not because I wanted overtime, but because I did not want to go home to a quiet apartment with my own thoughts. Around 1 a.m., with the morgue lights humming and the coffee cooling, I did something pathetic and human. I started searching horror like it could teach me how to survive horror. I typed American, then American horror, then American story, then American horror show, then American horror story, then AHS. My search history turned into a spiral. American Horror Stories, American Horror Story Season 1. American Horror Story Season 1, Episode 1, American Horror Story Season 2, American Horror Story Season 4, AHS Coven AHS Freak Show, American Horror Story Freak Show American Horror Story, Pepper R's Hotel American Horror Story Trailer, Lady Gaga, American Horror Story, Lady Gaga, American Horror Story, R's Theme Song, American Horror Story Song, American Horror Story Music, American Horror Story Theme Song, Evan Peters, Eyes, Queenie R's Cult, R's 1984, R's 13, R's Season 13, American Horror Story Season 12, American Horror Story Timeline, American Horror Story Reaction, American Horror Story Play With Me, American Horror Story, American Horror Stories Tapeworm, American Horror Story Tapeworm, Knotty Pine, American Horror Story Jyoti Amgi. I did not even watch anything. I just needed the glow of a screen and the illusion that monsters were something you could turn off. It did not help. At 3:17 a.m., wheels whispered in the corridor. I lifted my head slowly, like moving too fast would make whatever was happening more real. The gurney rolled past my office door with no one pushing it. Sheet tucked, rails gleaming, wheels steady. It moved like it had a destination and a schedule. I stepped into the hallway. My voice came out lower than I expected. I said, "Stop." It stopped. My mouth went dry. I said, "If you want something, show me." The gurney began rolling again. I followed because curiosity is what we call fear when we want to feel brave. We moved through the corridor where the air gets colder with each step, past the regular cooler bank, past the lockers, to a faded door marked Storage B. That door should have been locked. It was locked. The gurney stopped in front of it and waited like an employee waiting for a supervisor to swipe in. I said, "I do not have a key." Behind me, the badge reader beeped. I spun. Nobody stood there. The panel flashed green anyway. The lock clicked. My skin prickled. I pulled the door open. Cold air rolled out with the sharp bite of formalin. The room was not on any current map of the morgue, but the building is old, and old buildings keep secrets. Drawbanks sat against the far wall. Frost gathered along the seams like grey eyebrows. In the back, half hidden behind a dented cabinet, was a smaller freezer drawer set that did not match the others. Newer, cleaner, like somebody installed it after the fact and hoped no one asked why. A printed label sat on the handle, crisp and official. Employee, 04731, my employee number. I said no. My hands moved anyway. I grabbed the handle. The drawer seal cracked softly, and the drawer slid out smooth as if it had been waiting for me. Inside was a lab coat folded into a perfect rectangle. My lab coat, same frayed cuff, same ink stain on the pocket from a leaky pen months ago, same stitched name patch, Dr. Hale. Clipped to the pocket was a white tag, deceased. The formalin smell was soaked into the cotton like memory. Behind me, the air pressure changed, subtle but unmistakable, like someone stepped close. A voice came, not from my ears but from inside my skull. You were careful. My throat closed. I tried to speak anyway. With her, with all of us, the voice said. I turned. The freezer room was empty. A pause, like patience. A body that remembers, it said. A body that returns the favor. My heart was pounding hard enough to feel in my teeth. I said, the coffee, the hinge, the pen, that was you. We return what is given, it said. Respect, time, care. The word time hit me like a bruise, because suddenly I remembered rain on I-76, the shimmer of taillights, the way my car hydroplaned so smoothly I did not understand what was happening until the guardrail appeared in my headlights like a decision. I grabbed the edge of the drawer to steady myself. I said, I am alive. The voice did not argue. It simply waited, like the truth does. Then the gurney rolled in behind me and blocked the doorway. I glanced over my shoulder and my stomach dropped. A body lay under the sheet now, full shape, human weight. The sheet rose slightly, as if something beneath it took a polite breath. I said, Rita. No answer, no footsteps. Just the low hum of compressors and the sound of my own blood. The voice returned, calm as a nurse taking vitals. Doctor, time. I backed away from the drawer. I said, what do you want? A favor, it said. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. I said, I have been getting favors you already paid. Not paid, the voice said, borrowed. The sheet on the gurney shifted, and in that movement I felt the exact same discomfort as when a patient on the table twitches in a way that should not happen. I swallowed. I said, who is under that sheet? You, the voice said. My hands shook as I reached for the corner of the sheet. I told myself this was a hallucination, a stress break, a nightmare. I told myself the same lies people tell right before the truth changes their life. I pulled the sheet back. My own face stared up at me. Not decayed, not ghost white, just pale, lips faintly blue, a cut on the forehead, dried rainwater in the hairline. It looked like me after a brutal shift, except for the stillness that separates sleep from death. My dead eyes opened. They were my eyes. The mouth did not move, but the voice spoke. You were careful, it said. Now be honest. My knees went weak. I managed. I do not remember dying. Because remembering would make you stop, it said. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. Mom. I had ignored her calls for 3 days because I kept telling myself I would call back after one more report, one more case, one more night. There is always one more night. I looked at the screen until it went quiet again. I said, what is this? The voice answered gently, almost kindly. A loop you did not close, a report you did not finish, a truth you did not deliver. My dead eyes stared at me like a mirror that had learned to judge. I whispered, Jane Doe. Yes, the voice said, you promised her care, you promised answers. You cannot keep borrowing time from her and call it work. The gurney wheels creaked once, and I realized it was not forcing me. It was offering me a choice. I said, if I finish her case, if I find her name, if I make it right, what happens? We rest, the voice said. The doors stop opening, the favors end. I swallowed the panic and did what I do best. I worked. I stumbled out of storage B, leaving my own dead body where it lay, as if that was normal, and went straight to the files. I pulled every report on that I-76 crash, cross-referenced the abandoned vehicle record, requested dashcam footage, begged the night supervisor to let me see the impound photos. I called a contact at the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's office and swallowed my pride hard enough to taste blood. I said, I need help identifying a Jane Doe from November 24th, River Trail, possible crash victim. I think she belongs to a missing person report. The ME assistant sighed. Doc, it is 4 a.m. I said, please, I'm out of time. Maybe it was the tone, maybe it was luck, maybe the dead were listening. Within an hour, I had a match. Her name was Elise Navarro, 28, nurse at Jefferson, reported missing after leaving a late shift. Family searched the river trail because her phone pinged near Kelly Drive. Police assumed she ran away because police love stories that require no work. She did not run away. The abandoned vehicle from the crash belonged to a man with a suspended license and a history of DUIs. He fled on foot after the collision, left Elise bleeding and confused near the embankment, and she wandered toward the river until cold and internal injuries did what they do. I stared at Elise's driver's license photo until my vision blurred. Same nails, same careful polish, same face that deserved better. At sunrise, I called her mother. I said, Mrs. Navarro, my name is Dr. Marcus Hale. I am calling from Schuylkill Memorial in Philadelphia. I believe we have found Elise. The sound that came through the phone was not a scream. It was worse. It was the collapse of hope into certainty. I gave her the facts. I gave her respect. I promised her we would hold the right people accountable. I promised her I would personally make sure Elise was treated with dignity. When I hung up, my hands were cold again. The gurney wheels whispered in the corridor. It was time to pay back what I borrowed. I returned to storage B alone. The door opened without my badge, like it recognized me. The gurney waited inside. The sheet was tucked. The air was colder than before, but not hostile. More like a chapel. My dead body lay where it had been, eyes open, watching. The folded coat with the deceased tag rested in the drawer like a uniform for the job I'd been pretending I was not doing. The voice spoke, softer now. You kept your promise. I nodded because my throat would not cooperate. I said, Elise has her name back. Her mother knows. Police have the driver. A pause. Thank you, the voice said. That is how it should have been. I looked at my dead face and felt a strange tenderness. Not fear, not disgust, just sadness for a man who thought he could outwork death. I said, what about me? The voice did not mock me. You know what happened? It said. On I-76, rain, guardrail. The moment you did not let yourself remember. I closed my eyes, and the memory finally played clean. Hydroplaning, the spin, the impact so sudden my teeth clicked together like a gunshot. The airbag exploding into my face, the taste of blood, then quiet. Then a strange floating calm, like I was above my body watching responders lean into the driver's side window. I heard someone say, he is gone. I opened my eyes. Tears had made the cold feel sharper. I said, I have been walking around like I am still on shift. Yes, the voice said, borrowing favors, borrowing time, returning care to avoid returning home. The gurney nudged my hip gently, almost affectionately. Return the favor, the voice said. I reached into the drawer, lifted the lab coat and put it on. It fit perfectly, like it had always belonged to the version of me that was honest. The world did not go black, it went quiet. My heartbeat, which had been loud for days, softened into nothing, not with pain, but with relief. I lay down on the gurney because my body understood the ritual better than my mind did. The sheet came up, smooth and clean, tucked at the corners the way I always did it for others. As the gurney began to roll, I did not fight. I watched the fluorescent lights slide by above me like slow stars. I thought of Elise. I thought of her mother. I thought of every body I treated like a person, even when nobody would have blamed me for treating them like a case number. We reached the drawer bank. The freezer opened. Cold air touched my cheeks, and for the first time all week, it did not feel like punishment. It felt like a door closing properly. Just before the drawer slid shut, I heard one last sound behind me, faint but real. Rita's voice from somewhere in the corridor, shaky with tears. "Good night, Doc." I tried to answer. My mouth moved. No sound came, but I think she understood anyway. The drawer closed with a soft click. No jump scare, no dramatic music, just the end of a loop. The next night, Jalen would review the security footage and see only a gurney rolling by itself down a corridor, sheet tucked, no intruders, no footprints, no explanation. He would tell Rita, and Rita would tell herself it was stress, because the alternative would make her pray. But in my old office upstairs on my desk, there would be one last favor: a coffee. Black, 1 sugar. Lid turned toward the keyboard. A small thank you gesture, left by a body that finally got to rest.